Raja, it's wonderful to have you on Filme Shilmy. I'm really thrilled to be speaking with you. I've been listening to your music, and oh my God, I think I finally found an artist who really speaks to me. And I just want to say a warm welcome to you. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's early morning in LA, so I got my haldi tulsi ginger tea popping, and I'm ready for the day. Mm. And I'm using my
That
own
is
merch, so
good. That
I'm
is good.
absolutely obnoxious. So like we're just in it. We're having a good day.
I, I love it. No, well, you should. Well, you should actually be promoting your own merch. Trust me. If I had my own merch, I'd be promoting it hella too. So it's completely fine. But I think you've had quite a few releases during the pandemic. So how creatively satisfying has it been for you, in particular?
It's been different, usually that's an interesting question. Creatively satisfying, it's been different because usually we go out immediately, perform it, like I think the releases of the songs I did in India, I would like immediately have a show that weekend and then the crowd would know the song that day. So there was this immediate kind of validation that came. Um,
Yeah.
kind of repositioning ourselves and figuring out how to really transcend the limitations of the current situation has been very eye-opening. But I think that's why I went with Peace, because I thought on the album after NRI, I think came out at the right time because it was the release of, the announcement of my new deal with Mass Appeal, signing to Nas. And, that's a song that I really felt in my spirit. And I felt like at that point in my career, I had like earned the right to say those things, to talk of being too
Yeah.
Indian, because in the beginning I was always told you can't really say these things, so it's been very
Yeah.
different, but definitely satisfying. At least I have something to do. Otherwise, I don't know what I'd be
Yeah.
doing.
No, totally. And I'm really glad with what you said about the content being too Indian, because I think there's a lot of that sort of talk, especially when we try to put something out and suddenly everyone has a problem with it. I don't
Diaspora is
know
very
why.
intense
Every
with the diaspora. Like I feel like my harshest critics and my strangest like commentary comes from the diaspora. And I just feel like we're all searching for something. It's so interesting to be so hard on each other when we're all searching for the same thing, which is like where we came from, you know? So anyways, I'm
Yes,
hoping to make
exactly.
more
No,
people, ask more people to be more open and understanding. I think people say things without
yeah.
thinking how it affects one another, you know?
No, exactly. And I think especially of recent, especially in Bollywood recent, there's been a lot of talk about mental health awareness and all of that. I mean, I'm sure you heard about Sushant's passing, and I think there's been a lot of sort of discussions on mental health awareness, and I think it's a discussion that needs to continue forever and ever. I mean, obviously we'll talk about all these aspects as well very shortly, but speaking of of songs, your track Afreeda from Dil Bechara released recently, and I must say I'm in love with this song. It's very A.R. Rahman. You can just feel that sort of, yeah, it's very like, I love it. So what was your experience like of collaborating with
Oh
yeah,
my God. Do you want to
explain.
know what really happened for this song? Like literally,
Please.
I was in town in Chennai for a performance with AR that he invited me to be a part of. So I brought my like team, like I got my cameras in there because I was like, oh, I'll just keep one camera. And like this is the only I've worked with AR so many times, and like this is the footage I have. I haven't released it yet, but I have this footage. So I was just in
Okay.
town, and my mom had never met him after all the times I've worked with him or whatever, my obsession with AR, and my
Yeah.
parents obviously have been, he's like a musical god. So I had my mom with me. So he was like, okay, bring her to the studio. I want to meet your mom. So brought him to the studio, and I had my mom
Oh,
sitting there. And after he talked to her, he met her, they were just talking. And then he said, I have something in here if you want to just give it a try. So I never hesitate when he asks me. I just like stand up. I'm like, yep, I can do it. What's up? What do you need? I'm here. Da, 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 So I wrote that probably in 10 minutes. I just like watched, he showed me the scene of the film, and
mm,
obviously it was Sushant, and it was, I got to watch the whole film, not the whole film, that part.
that
And I
part.
just was inspired, and, I knew I had seen The Fault in Our Stars. So I knew like the energy of it. So I just wanted to write something that was kind of like off rhythm, like a little different, very simple, different part of my voice. And the woman's, I think it's Sana, her name is Sana, right? An incredible voice. So she was coming in that day. So she was gonna come on and sing after me, because like there was some sample there that was like
Mm,
holding the place. But it's so
mm.
crazy because that song was written, just in 10 minutes, just full flow. That song.
Wow. Wow, that is incredible. I mean, noticed a lot about with Rahman. He's very spontaneous with these sort
Yes.
of aspects as well. Almost like the Willy Wonka of like music.
He's like
Like he just
ridiculous.
knows.
He's so ridiculous. Like at that one show, literally during the rehearsal, he just goes, "Do you want to do something for Humma Humma? Come here." And I'm like, "Bro, I have to write it. Like I don't like even know the lyrics." So like I wrote it that night, and then actually, like the morning of the show, sound check, I was like just coming into sound check, and I could hear Humma playing. So I like raced up to the stage, and literally, as I walked onto the stage, it was my part. He hands me his microphone, and I just sing whatever I wrote, like in the rehearsal. And he goes, "Okay, good." And I was like, "Oh my God," like he's just so on the moment, and he'll give you an opportunity. And if you seize that opportunity, you can make it into your thing. But if you're timid, you know, you won't get
Yes,
it.
you've got to be open. You've got to be ready. You've got to be a yes man basically for these things.
No. You don't need to be a yes man. You just need to be open. You need to be open to that opportunity and seize it. Because the thing about A.R. Rahman is that the reason he's still so relevant is that he constantly brings in new artists. Constantly. There's always young singers, young musicians. He'll give a new singer a chance like this. Like there's no nepotism in this dude. You know, if you think about it. Think back at how many new artists, new singers, new sounds he's brought in. And like every time I see him, he'll be like, "What are you listening to?" And I'll just like start putting him on to like Indian hip hop or like, you know, whatever. I'll be like, this is this person. Cause I just
Yeah,
love to feed him these energies because it comes out in the
absolutely.
music. You know, it comes
No,
out in
it
different
does.
ways.
It does. It like I feel like his music has a very divine power. But I think just moving on from Rahman because I think we could talk about him
I
literally
can't.
for
I love him.
hours on end. You're obviously trained in Indian classical dance whilst being born and bred in America, and I just think it's just so wonderful with the way you've kind of brought like sort of Bharatiya Sanskriti to the forefront. And I just love that whole aspect. But how challenging is it to sort of balance authentic cultural arts, like sort of classical dancing with a style which is modern like hip hop? How difficult is it to maintain that balance?
I think authenticity is like the most important thing. So it's like my entire infrastructure is made from Indian dance. So like when I learned hip hop, it's through the lens of classical dance. So it's like there's no way for me to understand rhythm outside of takadimi, takadimi. I was 5 years old. That's it. That's all I have, you know? So if it's either like or how long do you think that you could keep up with my tempo? It's the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just it's just yeah, it's always
Yeah.
it's difficult. I think if you try to like, I'm going to take this and this, but if you're just living your experience and you're just, you know, expressing who you are, then it remains authentic, and it remains also like original. Like other fusion stuff doesn't sound like mine because they're not coming from my perspective, you know, they're not.
Yes, it has to come from within, right? I think that's very much. I mean, when I speak to actors as well, I think they often say that they have to divide, sort of bring out their real experiences, or sort of use
Of course.
an experience of theirs to sort of bring out the art within them. So I'm guessing that's obviously the same with you as well, right?
Yeah, but I think I learned that from dance. And classical dance is acting. You know, you're playing the characters, you're doing, you know, everything. You're scared, you're angry, all those things. So it's like you find ways to emote, and you have people share in the storytelling through dance. So I wanted to like bring that to stage, and I think that's why a lot of my music, it doesn't just stop at the audio. Like you have to see the visual to understand like the full nature of what my expression is. And I think that's because in dance, it's the costume, it's the hand movements, it's everything, it's the music, it's everything together will tell the story. You know,
Yes,
it's not like just one piece. So
and
I did.
even yeah, absolutely. And even when you have Kathakali as well, when you've got those massive outfits and stuff, it's always the eyes and the sort of subtle expressions which does the talking and that tells the story. So I just think
Yeah, I feel like the classical dance, all the forms, I feel like it's been the most accurate way to preserve culture, like in such a real way, because through dance I learned like nuances of beauty. I learned about like all these mythological characters. I learned about relationships. I learned about, you know, expressions, you know, all the navarasas. You have to learn the navarasa to express it. So these things give you a framework to like understand the
yeah,
world, you know?
no,
So
totally.
I
And
will always push classical dance on everybody. I'm like,
I'm
learn.
glad. I'm so glad, thank you, and I'm really glad we've got figures like yourself to do that because it's so important. But I think, I guess we were just talking about hip hop and that sort of genre, which is quite different to, let's say, what Indian classical is in
Mhm.
comparison. I mean, of course, the whole art aspect is the same, but a film like Gully Boy, in particular,
Mm.
showcased the popularity of rap in Mumbai's underbelly. So, what role, if at all, do you think the movie has played in sort of raising more awareness of this genre in India?
Well, there's like a pre-Gully Boy, post-Gully Boy experience in India because I was there from 2016. And I think I arrived right at the precipice. Like everybody had been doing this work. These people, these kids have been in the slums. They've been in the ciphers. They've been learning about hip hop. They've been making their thing. And I think right when I came, I was able to like bring this kind of energy in, this different like experience, and also like kind of put my presence into the scene. And I think that's encouraged a lot more females. I think that
Right.
I've seen since I started, being the one female on the bill, to like right before we left for coronavirus, I was booked on an all female like lineup, and I arranged the first all female rap cipher for Levi's, but it got canceled. But we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it again. So it's like
Hmm.
things have obviously evolved. But I think the greatest gift that Gully Boy gave us, in the scene, is that it gave an understanding to the general public that rap is rhythm and poetry. So India has this understanding of poets from time immemorial, like, forever. So this is just having them understand that, that whole spirit of poetry has just now come into the youth. And this is how we're expressing ourselves. And I find that the parents, their perspective on it has shifted. And I feel that like more like when I did MTV Hustle, right after that, and we were having
Yes.
the auditions, I found a lot of people. There was a girl on there, Reza, that said she started rapping only 3 months ago after she saw Gully Boy. And she
Wow.
made it to like, almost a top 10. So you can't even measure the impact of the film yet, but I believe
Yeah.
very, very, it was an important film in getting Indian hip hop to the mainstream. And also like the brand started understanding. So we started getting bigger shows, bigger stages. And 2020 has given us a little hiccup, but hip hop is the biggest genre in the world, and Indian hip hop is definitely growing.
I think, before you came on the scene, there was a lack of representation in Hindustani culture and heritage in the West, especially on the hip hop front. I mean, I think in all aspects, to be very honest with you, but I think just to pinpoint on the hip hop side of things, why do you think this was the case?
I think people in Europe, in UK, you guys are a little bit more used to having Indian people be part of like the mainstream. You're like on your fourth generation. So like in America, we're on our second or first, like our parents came in the 70s. We're on our first generation, or maybe now we're having kids. So this is a process. It's going to take time for Indian culture to become part of the mainstream. And in America, we're less than 1%. So we're dealing with something different here. So to impact an Indian artist in the mainstream in America will be like this crazy thing worldwide. But like the diaspora and everybody, it's this timing is going to change. But it has been difficult because, like I say in NRI, sorry that my sorry ain't Indian enough, and America don't love me because I'm Indian as AF. Is because that has been my experience in the Western scene. Like, I had experiences with my, past with executives and stuff saying like, okay, well, the Bindi alienates the American population. Mind you, this is the same breath that you're going to use when someone's wearing a bindi at Coachella. And there was like conversations about like, hey, if you don't wear the bindi, we'll give you more budget because we can like do it this way. So I've been fighting this battle, and I have no desire to put it down. And I just think
Mm.
like I just feel like it should be accepted and okay, like it should be fine to be Hindu. Like it really needs to be out there, and like I find that there's so much weird pushback. And growing up in America where it was never really support, not, there was no Diwali, like, it's not like it's a national holiday for us. We don't get a day off, or no one knows what's happening. Now there's like a couple Diwali episodes on TV shows. So some people kind of know, but it's going to take time. But this is part of
Yeah.
it. Hassan, Aziz,
Yeah,
everybody together, this is part of this. Riz, what Riz is doing.
absolutely. Yes. I mean, Priyanka Chopra Jonas, I mean, I think she has completely broken the glass ceiling for the sort of like Indian representation, especially on the West front.
She
When are
gives
you
us
two collaborating?
mass exposure for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. When are you guys like collaborating? Because I am so eager to see a collaboration between you and PZ.
Me,
When is
me
this
and
happening?
Chops. I mean, as soon as the coronavirus lets up, I mean, I really respect, what she's done in her career and what she's been able to create. So I mean, I would love to. I think she's been laying low. I hope she's given us the next generation. I mean, she could be spending her time doing that.
Well, she's
Cool. It could
apparently
be.
she's had like a massive like Amazon deal actually. So I just think I'm super excited to sort of see her like
Listen,
sort of back in action on the film front. So
yeah, and I, the thing that I do love and what I think that she went through the whole like her wedding and everything is like towards the end of this experience, she wore her sari in Vogue and she was saying, "Oh, I'm first time I'm wearing Vogue, sari in Vogue." And I felt like for me as somebody who's like always kind of like held on to the Indian attributes of clothing, it felt good to see her come back to her roots. It
yeah,
felt good to see her um, acknowledge that part of her so publicly, and celebrate that part of her. So anytime anyone can come home to themselves, we should celebrate that.
no, definitely, and this is it. I think this is the perfect time because awareness has been made, and obviously you're continuing to sort of break the glass ceiling further. In fact, speaking of that, through your contemporary endeavors and status as a mainstream artist, how do you sort of hope to globally remarket Indian classical music and Indian classical dance as well? How do you hope to kind of take that forward and
So, I
remarket
mean,
it?
what I realized when I was, touring and before the age of 15, when I was like fully doing classical dance and it was my, my main focus was that the platform was never like big enough. Like no matter how big the show was, there wasn't enough exposure, only a couple hundred people would see it at a time. And, I just felt like I told you, I think Indian classical dance is like, it encapsulates everything. It's the best way to pass culture down. Even if you learned for a little time and then went on to be a doctor or whatever, went on to be a writer or anything, that time you spent with the dance will teach you so much. So, I mean, I realized that all I could do was get dance to the highest platform I could find. And at that time I was so obsessed with NSYNC and Britney Spears. I was like, oh, I have to be a pop star. That's the only way I'm going to make dance,
Yeah.
I'm going to do my part. I just feel like if I can influence, like, if I can influence a little girl to learn Bharatanatyam, then we are preserving the culture. Because I find like a lot of little girls are choosing ballet or they're choosing jazz or they're choosing Bollywood styles too, which is fine. But Bollywood is a mixture of Spanish and pop rock and everything. So I just want to keep encouraging. And I've been doing the groundwork and I'm starting a foundation called Kumari Kids. And it's going to be about supporting young girls under the age of 18 in the classical arts because, my parents were there and, we had the ability to support me in learning this. And it's not always so cheap, to learn and have the costumes and stuff. So I'd like to take some of that pressure off of people so that they can continue to preserve the most important part of our culture, which is our ancient arts.
No, exactly. Definitely. No, exactly, and I think even hearing your songs like Mira, which is my favorite song of yours. I probably heard her about 20 times on loop. I think my parents have heard it too. We love the song that much. Peace as well, which released as well recently, is amazing too. So it kind of seems like like especially your songs, especially regarding peace, a lot of them sort of revolve around humanity and embracing one's identity, especially whether it's cultural or religious. So obviously these are concepts which are very close to your heart, right? And you sort of pour that sort of through your music, isn't it?
Yes, very much so. I think this song, a lot of like Mira and Believe in You and Peace. I feel like they all belong to the same vein of my music, and when they're written, it's always like prophetic. It's like before I need to experience them. Like I was telling a story that when I wrote Peace, I wasn't at peace. I wanted peace, and I was in a sad place, and I was going through a lot of things, and I literally wrote it as a manifestation. I wrote it as an affirmation because it's repetitive and it's positive. You won't see me when I'm coming because I'm changing my ways. I literally like manifested peace into my life with the song. And by the time the song was
Wow.
ready, like to be released, like once I knew that I was just going to sneak it on the album because sometimes it's harder to get, people to let you release stuff like this, especially
Yeah.
if you're like an aggressive rapper and stuff. But I think I just made the point to my label and, they really support me as an artist and they understand my vision. And I said, I just think that people need to hear this right
Yeah.
now. I think that this is the right time and I don't feel comfortable, doing anything different. So just took my friend Sean, who, my longtime collaborator. We've done City Slums, Mute, Believe in You, Mira. Like he traveled India with me, lived with Madhuri Dixit, like this same guy. We went out to, the nature right behind my parents' house and we just shot it. You know, we just shot it. I did my own makeup.
Hmm.
You know, I just looked like this, you know, it was different, you know, for what people are used to seeing me do.
You
But
look gorgeous, by the way.
thank you. A lot of people are like, I like her
Yeah.
without makeup. And I was like, don't let my makeup artist see this because he loves to paint my face, you know?
Wicked. No, I actually quite in all forms. I think you're just beautiful in whichever form you are. I think that's definitely that I can sort of vouch for that. But also, when it comes to Indian and international entertainment collaborations, there still seems to be that post-colonial hangover of seeking approval from the West. I mean, for example, whenever there's like a Hollywood actor that comes to Bollywood, all you'll see is like these really rich elite parties and selfies and all
I
of
know
that. I
you've
mean,
seen those
when
memes when Ed Sheeran came to Bombay. I know you've seen those memes. I was in Bombay when he
I was
came. I was like, poor guy. Poor guy. He's like,
exactly, and you know what? Yeah, exactly, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I think it's good that I'm sort of having this conversation with you because I think you kind of understand
yeah.
where I'm coming from as well.
It's,
This yeah, so like I was saying, like what can we as a community do to stop and prevent this from happening? Because constantly, it's almost like you've only made it big as if you've ventured to the West when that's not true.
I know. And that, you know, I think that I hope like my life and my career explains to them, like, I am from Los Angeles. I worked with Timbaland. I was signed to a major label recording deal in America, and I left to move to India because I found that there was something in India that the West could never give me. And I'm like, everybody in the East is trying to become westernized, and the West is literally learning our stuff and taking it and run. Like, you want to see Yoga Day and Adidas, and it's all white people and blonde hair saying namaste. Like, people are trying to find out what we have known. So I feel like we need to go back to our roots, and we need to share that information with the world. Culture is meant to be shared. You know, it's not like, oh, we need to go back to roots and take away yoga. It's like, no, yoga and Ayurveda and meditation techniques are for every human. We were the keepers of the
Yes.
knowledge. We did a good job of retaining it. And now we need to ourselves go back to our roots, and we need to ourselves, with our own languages, our own voice, spread that message. Don't let somebody else come and give our information to the world and make their own translations when we should be speaking our own. That's why I really switched from being a songwriter to an artist, because I was like, how are my songs worthy to be on the radio? I obviously wrote a song that can sell this 4 million records, and most of my vocals are still on the song, like in the background. Why is it okay to hear the things I have to say, but not me? Why is a South Asian woman not given a space? Because you clearly are okay with buying my songs, So that was really,
Yeah.
it's really that kind of thing. Like, I know, like, even me going and signing to Nas, I mean, that becomes this like Western validity, but it's the nature of the beast. But at the same time, when I get my
Yeah.
opportunities, I always put on POC Indian creatives. I always put on female creatives. Like, when if you have to play this game, when you get your opportunity, make sure you open the door wide behind you so that we can actually have a revolution. It can't just be like how Jay Sean
Right.
went #1 and then it disappeared. Like, MIA went #1 and we never got another moment. Like, when Ricky Martin had his moment at the Grammys and he burst open the scene, the whole Latin scene came behind. Now we have J-Lo, now we have Bad Bunny, now we have Maluma. Like, so much came from this one moment of America being like, oh, Latin music is great. We need that. And the only way we're going to have that, and I keep preaching that, is if we stick together and we don't do this mentality that has been given to us that, like, there's only one spot and only one female. Like, I do not ascribe to that. Like, every time people try to pit me against another woman, I'm like, yo, first off, like, if she's dope, so actually I'm going to talk to her and we're just going to do a song together. How about you take that? Like, and I'm really on that right now. I'm like I have a lot of female collaborations I'm working on because people need to see that right now more than
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
more than me
No.
like paying like 6ix9ine to be on a record, like, how is that going to be helpful?
Yeah, and I think this is exactly this is it. I think this is what kind of sort of constitutes towards that whole post-colonial hangover is the fact that because obviously India as a country has obviously been suppressed for so long, for so many centuries by obviously foreign powers. It's got to a point where it's almost like we feel like no matter which opportunity comes, we have to fight for it, because if we don't fight for it, then we will lose out. So I think it's a very deep rooted issue, right? I think it
I still
definitely
feel that I fight for everything. I still feel that every single step is a battle, and like what happens behind the scenes, nobody knows, like the stress that goes into one outfit, like the details, like, you know, people look at my fashion stuff sometimes and I'm like, there's literally a team of creatives. Like I have incredible like stylists that I've been working with, that we come up with the concept, we sketch it, we get it stitched by the tailor, like we bring the jewelry from different Indian jewelry designers because I want to make sure I, you know, keep wearing Indian designers, and then we have to ship it across the world. Like no one knows what goes into it, you know? So I think every step of the way we're going to have to fight still. It's not over anytime soon. So we got to
Yeah,
keep that.
definitely. And I think on a final note as well, Raja, to be honest, I could honestly talk to you at length about this whole ideology and these concepts, because trust me, I have a lot to say as well.
Yeah.
But obviously time is of the essence. But obviously on a final note, I mean, what are your goals? I mean, now, because you've clearly left a huge imprint in the music industry, not just in Los Angeles, but also in India. I mean, look, I'm sitting in London and I'm sort of, consuming your music and appreciating it. So what are your goals now, and what will you do to sort of achieve those goals? What is your plan of action?
I mean, the plan of action hasn't changed. It's always been to see an Indian break in the mainstream America, and the impact that that will have around the world, and how many girls will see themselves and see that they can be great exactly as they are. And, you know, my big goal, and I talk about this a lot, is I'm a mentor, and I really want to continue to give the knowledge that I so, you know, graciously received. Like I was lucky to be born in LA and have these opportunities and sit in the room with Timbaland. I was lucky, you know, not everybody gets those opportunities. So, you know, it's about giving back. It's about Kumari kids. And it's about, you know, I want to see a young girl come out of India and win a Grammy. I just see it for us. I want to see a young girl like out of India with Indian producers. And the only way we're going to see that is like, you know, some of the work that I've been doing and that I'm doing with my team, you know, especially with Universal, with Dave Raj Sanya, that I'll finish this, Dave Raj Sanya and Universal. Like we've been working with like the Dari project, and like, you know, investing in the infrastructure of the music so that we can have a thriving scene,
Right.
independent scene. So that's the future.
Yes. Oh, wow. That's amazing. And I really hope as well one day we get to see you act as well, because I would love to see you
I want
do some
to.
acting. Yeah, and you can do it. I mean, you're as a dancer, I mean, we've been taught how to express and with our body language and stuff. I would love to see that happening. Any plans of that happening anytime soon, though?
I mean, I'm open to it. I have a lot of friends in the industry. We'll see if the right project comes around. We'll definitely do it.
Yeah, I think we'll have to message Mindy and tell her to kind of make sure like you guys collaborate for something super soon.
I love Mindy. You know, I'm
Me
always
too.
a fan of Mindy.
Same, same. But on that note, Raja, thank
Okay.
you so much for
Thank you
joining
so
me
much.
uh, in today's conversation. And it was such a privilege and honor. And may you keep rocking and doing the amazing work that you are. And thank you for being a champion for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for seeing me. I feel seen. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Raja. Thank you.